Hello, beautiful people of YouTube. Welcome to this video, and if you are new to my channel, welcome to When the Stars Aligned. My name is Kelly Rowland, and my devotion with this channel is to provide insightful, empowering, authentic reflections into the nature of our cosmic blueprint, the nature of our deepest, innermost being, and how we can access through somatic modalities, through esoteric modalities, through astrology, a really core sense of who we are at a deep level and how we can live a life that is unique and true to our soulful expression. And that looks different for each and every human being on this planet. And that's something that I really believe in and really stand for and am deeply passionate about serving others on the journey of coming into their own soulful empowerment. And today we are going to talk about astrology. We're going to talk about two placements within an astrology chart that I find to be most helpful and most supportive and most activating for really understanding what are you here to do in the world. And what I am bringing into this perspective, because it can get very streamlined, right? When we think about what am I here to do? Because of the more capitalistic, consumeristic society that we live in, if you're in the West, and this has trickled throughout most of the world, right? A lot of it comes down to work. How are you making your money? What is your livelihood? And that is definitely a component of a deeply fulfilling, satisfying life. But it's not the only component. So I'm going to be looking at two key placements within an astrological chart that I find really helpful for understanding, like, what are you here to do? Yes, on a vocational level, like you're a career that you can really thrive in, a career that you can feel so lit up and activated within, but also on a soul level, because both are important, right? The spiritual path, the soulful path, the path that exceeds the 3D materialization of goods or products or items. Both are important. We need the 3D materialization, we need the structure and safety, and it can also be a very satisfying way of using our energy. You know, having meaningful work, I think, is one of the most underrated, beautiful things in this world. Work can be such a dharmic, fulfilling, life-giving thing that we get to do, right? But so much of us don't experience that because of, a various amount of reasons, the way the world is built, the way the world is set up. But just work, right? Even very soulful, fulfilling work, even work that you really enjoy or work that highlights one of your skill sets, that without a soulful path of spirituality or a deeper self-inquiry will also create its own level of conundrums and destructions and breakdowns, because we are here to have the combination experience, I believe, of being a human spirit, of being in this world, learning how to really be in the 3D and do the things in a good way, each in our own way, right? And also to honor the spirit in us, to honor the soul in us, to honor that this is just a blip on a larger scheme of unfolding, and what is it that the soul really hungers for that might not always directly connotate or correlate into monetization or material goods, or even something that has to be seen out in the world. So let's get into it. And I'm going to start by saying that I love working with people in one-on-one sessions to really excavate the codes of your core expression, to really understand yourself on a deeper level, to see yourself on a deeper level, to be held in a space of inquiry, of soulful intimacy, of really getting down to the nitty-gritty of your charts, your expression, and being asked really good questions to really go a little deeper into what it is you really want and what it is you're really here to do, utilizing the tools of astrology and esoteric arts. So if you're interested in that, reach out below. I would love to meet you and work with you. And we're going to look at the two placements now. What are the two placements? And I'll also give some description on each of those placements. The first one that has to do more with a vocational level, right? More about a kind of career path that you can really thrive in. More about, if we're going to look at it in like a quantum level, right? The 3D human incarnate part of you. What is a kind of role that you can really thrive in? What is a role that you are meant to play out? What is a certain reputation that you will thrive if you do the work and due diligence to establish in the world? This is the midheaven. So the midheaven is on the cusp of the 10th house. It's right at the top of your chart if you're looking at your astrological wheel, and it is where the sun is shining the brightest, right? Metaphorically, there is a lot of sunlight on your midheaven. It is the thing that is exposed in your chart. It is the thing that is out there to be seen in the world, and we all have a unique midheaven sign. You can easily look up your chart if you have your birth details, so your time, location, city of birth, and all of that. You can use astro.com. I really like using astrocharts.com, and it will tell you what your midheaven is. So we all have one of the 12 signs as our midheaven, and the midheaven is really your public-facing persona. Not only for yourself, like what may you be really drawn to convey into the public through the work you do, the network you build, the way you present yourself, even through how you dress or on social media or in how you speak or the kind of impression you give off. But it's also what other people really want to see from you. This is the quality that they hunger for from you, maybe even unconsciously. And when we play out successfully, and it's an ongoing journey, right? It's something that we practice and learn and get better at. When we play out the archetypal expression of our midheaven sign in our astrology chart, typically that is when we get a lot of momentum in whatever our given career path is, or our social standing, or our network, or our vocational path. And this will look different for so many people, right? Like you could be an entrepreneur, or you could be a caretaker, or you could be a chef, or you could be a teacher. Like you don't have to be any one specific kind of career. It's more so, right, the archetype. It's the energy behind what you're doing. So think of it like that. When we think of the midheaven, yes, we have a public-facing role in the world. We have a career, but it's the kind of energy that you're bringing through what you do. Right? Like you could have, let's say, a teacher, and there could be, right, like multiple different types of teachers. There could be a teacher who's embodying maybe a certain archetype of, let's say, they have a midheaven in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is, devoted to higher wisdoms and learning and expansion of the mind and philosophy and religion and, shattering and rebuilding belief systems and reaching far out into like the farthest corners of the psyche to really understand philosophy and these higher wisdoms and intelligence. And if you have a teacher who has that midheaven, right, and if they embody that archetype in how they teach, that is going to translate to their students, right? The students are going to feel that. They're going to feel drawn to that energy. They're going to feel, well, the right ones, or not the right ones, but the people who are receptive to it or, on board with that are going to feel the impact of that midheaven expression. Right? Versus maybe a teacher who is not maybe like really doing what they want to be doing. They're not really bringing the right kind of energy through, and their teachings kind of fall flat. So you could, chop and change that for any career path. It's not necessarily what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. So your midheaven really reveals to us the archetypal energy, the archetypal expression that wants to be conveyed through what you are doing. I'll use another example. I have a Scorpio midheaven, and Scorpio, gets a lot of various degrees of speculation, but in essence, Scorpio is quite intense. It wants to burn through the falsehoods and come to truth. It's very psychically aware. It's very direct and penetrating. It's hunting for the truth, and it's quite intimate, so there can be somewhat of like a penetrative intimacy to the Scorpio energy. Sometimes a little bit more focused on taboo topics, or maybe even going down routes that one usually shouldn't go down in conversation, or trying, pushing the edges a little bit. And there can definitely be shadow sides to that, right? Like every sign has its unevolved expression and its evolved expression. We're not just these like static creatures with a birth chart. It's an alive, pulsing thing, and you're not limited to just a sign in your birth chart. What your birth chart offers you is a view into psychological development that might really cater to your unique spirit and your unique karma in this lifetime. So it's a journey of development and progression and evolution. It's not a static thing. So for me, I can absolutely see hands down, and I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years now, when I bring through that kind of edginess and that intensity, whether it's like really positive, like light infused intensity, or a little bit more taboo and sensual maybe, or direct, or talking about certain topics that usually don't get talked about in society. It's when I'm edge pushing, it's when I'm like kind of being more direct, that I tend to translate my message most to people, that I tend to get most engagement, that I tend to receive more comments from people wanting to understand more. It's like when I'm embodying that archetype in a good way. So our midheaven sign can really help us understand what is the energy we're here to bring through in a given vocational path, in a given career path. Now, as we said, right, you can do this in any career. However, you might find that some are better suited for certain careers. Let's say you have an Aries midheaven. Aries wants to pioneer, it wants to trailblaze, it wants to, break the rules and make new ones. It wants to chart its own course. If you have an Aries midheaven, although you can carry that kind of pioneering maverick spirit into whatever you do, that might be harder to do in a position where you really have no say, or you really don't have much like executive decision. Like you might just really struggle in a position like that, where there's not space for your voice or your innovation or your creative direction to any extent, right? So you do want to utilize the qualities of your midheaven to understand what kind of sectors of like vocation might really suit you. But I do feel it can translate across many different ones, and it's not like, Aries only have to be entrepreneurs and Scorpios only have to be sex and love relationship counselors, or, Pisces only have to be spiritual consultants. Like it's not that limited. I think it's more so the energy you're bringing through what you're doing. So look at your midheaven, find what that sign is. Think about what I shared here about like, it's the frequency that you bring through your work. And then maybe research or study a little bit more about that sign so that you can understand more about that sign's expression. And now the second placement we're going to talk about, it can definitely be a part of your career, but it's not the sole focus. And it is your North Node. So a lot of us, right, we know the term North Star. What is your North Star in life? What is your guiding influence? What is it that is leading you, quote unquote, home, to the quintessential home, to the home that we all long for, that maybe we're not physically in, but it's more of a feeling? The North Node is our soul's trajectory in this lifetime. And something I haven't mentioned, it's equally important, so maybe I'll do like a series for this video or a part 2. Just as important as the midheaven is the opposite of the midheaven, which is the opposite sign of your chart. Think of it like North Pole, South Pole. The way astrology works is that whenever you have one fixed point, there is a 180 placement that is holding somewhat of a polarized dynamic that also has valid information for you. So for every MC or midheaven, there's an ilium coeli, which is your IC, which is kind of like, what have you come from? What have you already done? So that's equally important, but I'm going to save that for another video to keep this a little bit more concise. We're already working with a lot here. So with the North Node, there's also your South Node. And you can think of it like the North Node is what you are here to learn on a soul level and what you deeply desire to learn on a soul level, on a spirit level, maybe even on a karmic level. And your South Node is what you have done in past lives, perhaps, or what you already are very familiar with. And although it is good to lean into that to build foundations in your life, it's a skill set, you don't want to too heavily rely on the South Node because it can deter you from moving towards the edgy, North Node. The South Node can be a bit of a comfort zone in your astrology chart. So whatever your South Node is showing more of your comfort zone and likely something that you're naturally kind of good at or you naturally embody. Where the North Node, it's an uncomfortable path, and I think this is something that more people are talking about it now. The journey of evolving as a soul, evolving as a human being, the journey of growth and spiritual growth, although it can all be like positive in the sense that it is all light and it is all love, it is not for the faint of heart, and it is not always easy, and it will test you and it will challenge you. And it will break you down, and it will push your buttons, and it will make you scared sometimes. There's a difference between harmful fear and good fear, and that's something that we all have to, take responsibility to learn for ourselves. But the North Node does not feel comfortable. The North Node is like, wow, I am riveted by that. I really want to go towards that, but I don't know how to. Or can I really do that? Or how do I do that? That's the kind of sensation, that's the kind of feeling that can be evoked through the North Node journey. So you can also find your North Node placement by looking up your astrology chart on astro.com or astrocharts.com, or getting a personal reading with me, and we can focus on your North Node placement. You could probably even type in like North Node calculator on Google. Sometimes they have specific things like that. But the North Node is what your soul wants, right? So the MC, the midheaven, interchangeable, and midheaven is also known as an MC for short. But the midheaven is, who are you here to be in society? What's the reputation you hold? What is the energy that you back with your, like, into your work? What do you bring to your public facing persona? The North Node is, what do you want and deeply desire on a soul level? What did you come here to do? Think of it like a contract, right? And you don't have to believe in past lives or anything like that. Let's just explore this for the sake of curiosity and inquiry and possibility. You came into this life and you had a bit of a contract of, okay, what does Jane, what does Bobby, what does Sam, what does Veronica want to learn in this lifetime? On a soul level, what's the contract that he or she has signed to really learn and grow in on a deep, deep, deep level? So this is a theme that I think it tends to pick up after your Saturn return. I think up until our Saturn return, which is, it doesn't really complete until we're about 31 or 32, I think we're more focused on establishing the South Node baseline and getting, maybe hints and whispers and visions or premonitions of the North Node calling, but we don't really get the momentum to fully move in that North Node calling until after our Saturn return. And I think it becomes a little easier. I think it becomes a little bit more direct, because pre-Saturn is, it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. And Saturn return, that age of 27 or 28 till 32 is really like preparing you to be a human in this world, and like fortified and strong and with good foundations. And for some people, their Saturn returns are a breeze, and for some people, Saturn returns really mess them up and challenge every single facet of their life. So it becomes a little bit more stabilized to pursue that North Node path once you have gone through the initiation of Saturn. And you've come out, 31, 32, and you're clear. You're more clear about who you are and what you want. And that North Node journey is one that brings such deep spiritual fulfillment when we're going after it. I also think that if we're on a path of, growth, of spiritual devotion, of whatever that may look like for you, if you're on a spiritual path, I think that is a very multifaceted thing to say, right? There's no one way to be on a spiritual path. It's a devotion to God, to Creator, to self-actualization, awareness, service to humanity and humanity's awakening, right? There's so much to what that means, so I'm not going to go into that here. But the North Node is what takes you there. And we all have a unique trajectory, right? Some people have Libra North Node, so they're really here. They've already done the Aries South Node of learning how to be very independent and a maverick and making their own way. And now they're here to do the uncomfortable thing of learning how to do it in relationship. Libra is a deeply relational sign. It's like, I want to build with a team. I want to be equanimous. I want to find equality. I want to establish justice and harmony and move together as a team, move together as a unit, move together as a force, whether that's within a partnership or within a community. And that's very different, right, than someone who maybe has a Sagittarius North Node. They're here to move away from just the small community and the close-knit familiarity into a larger scope of the world, maybe through traveling, maybe through expanding their mind through higher learning, or getting a lot of degrees in things, or taking a lot of trainings, or, immersing themselves in different cultures so that they can receive the wisdom they're supposed to receive to do whatever they're supposed to do in this lifetime. That's what expands them and enriches them. So your North Node can really highlight what quality of being, what kind of path, what kind of trajectory, what archetype deeply feeds your soul, even if it's scary, even if it's uncomfortable. this is a journey for me as well. I also have my North Node in Scorpio. I have like 7 placements in Scorpio, so it's a very strong theme for my life path in this lifetime, at least through Western astrology system. So my North Node is also, to follow that more Plutonic Mars, like Mars and Pluto rule over Scorpio, that kind of the fire of intensity and depth and the sacredness and spirituality and psychic intuitive elements and eroticism and getting to the truth of things and really hunting for the truth of things and being a bit of a change agent in that way and learning how to hold that frequency and learning how to not burn myself with it or burn other people with it, but how to wield it well. That's a huge part of what really like stirs and inspires me on my path. And yes, that can translate into career, but it's more so how I carry myself and what I'm in devotion to. So you can think of it like that, like your midheaven is, what are you cultivating as your reputation, as an authentic but archetypal reputation and persona you're carrying in the world, in your career, in your vocation, in your networking, in your social medias. And the North Node is, what are you in devotion to? What do you pray to? What is your form of prayer? What is your form of spirituality? Your North Node will show you that. So I hope this video was helpful. I'm going to sum it up here because I'm already at 22 minutes. And let me know what your takeaway was from this or what your midheaven and North Node placements are. Please go on the journey of exploring yourself. I think that utilizing these 2 placements can be so empowering for really getting more clarity on what you love and who you are and how you can strategically like bring your gifts to the world. And that's what the world needs right now. So I believe in you. Thank you for being here, and stay in the loop for the next video. And I hope to see you back.